slowly awaken, without knowing exactly how long you have been asleep. The first sound you notice is the faint crackle of a distant candle. Then silence. A silence so deep that it seems to fill the entire space around you. As your eyes adjust to the dim light, you realize you are lying upon a long oak table. Its surface is smooth, cool, and marked by centuries of careful use. Above you, wooden beams stretch across the ceiling in perfectly parallel lines. Some of them are more than 30 feet long. Between the beams, small shadows remain perfectly still. The air feels cool. A faint scent of aged parchment, tanned leather, and dry timber drifts quietly around you. You sit up slowly. Surrounding you is a medieval library housed within a stone castle. Rows of shelves extend in every direction. Some rise nearly 13 feet high. Each shelf holds dozens of hand-bound manuscripts. Many were copied over months of patient labor by medieval scribes. In an age before printing presses, every book required hundreds or even thousands of hours of careful work. Moonlight enters through tall Gothic windows. Silver bands of light stretch across the stone floor. No one else is here. No voices echo through the aisles. There is only you, the library, and the quiet passing of time. Perhaps dawn is still far away. Perhaps the entire castle remains asleep. And for now, there is no reason at all to hurry. You rise from the table and begin walking slowly between the shelves. Your footsteps create a soft sound across the large stone floor slabs. Each block appears to have been carved by hand centuries ago. Some are nearly 3 feet wide. Others still carry faint marks left by ancient tools. Nothing here feels new. And somehow, that is exactly what makes everything feel peaceful. Along the shelves, you notice carefully arranged rows of manuscripts. Many are attached by delicate iron chains. This was common in medieval libraries. Books were incredibly valuable and were often secured to shelves to prevent their loss. Some libraries maintained entire systems of chains, rods, and locks devoted solely to protecting their collections. You brush your hand near a dark leather binding. The material appears surprisingly soft despite its age. Small golden letters shimmer in the candlelight. Some words are written in Latin. Others appear in calligraphy so beautiful that it resembles artwork. Farther ahead, a narrow window offers a glimpse of the night sky. The moon hangs high above. Its silver blue glow filters through drifting dust particles. Each speck seems to float slowly, as though time itself has slowed within this library. You continue wandering without any particular destination, simply observing, simply existing within this quiet place. After several minutes of walking, you discover a reading desk beside a tall window. Resting upon it is an open manuscript. The book is enormous, perhaps 20 inches tall and nearly 6 inches thick. Its pages are made from carefully prepared parchment. Even from a distance, you can see the subtle texture of the surface. You examine each detail slowly. Perfect rows of dark letters form neat columns across the page. Small, colorful illustrations decorate the margins. Some depict flowers. Others show birds. Simple geometric patterns repeat again and again. Nothing about the manuscript feels rushed. You imagine the scribe who created it, sitting for countless hours, dipping a quill into ink, drawing line after line, page after page, week after week, perhaps through an entire winter season. A nearby candle casts a warm golden glow across the parchment. The flame sways gently. Not even the wind seems able to enter this room. The castle's thick stone walls shelter the interior from the outside world. You remain there for a while, simply looking, not reading, not searching for answers, only appreciating the remarkable calm of a book that has crossed centuries to rest quietly before you. In a distant corner of the library, you discover a spiral staircase. The steps have been carved directly into stone. The staircase circles slowly around a solid central column. Each step shows slight or near the edge. These marks were left behind by generations of librarians, scholars, and quiet visitors. You begin climbing. Slowly, effortlessly. The circular motion creates a surprisingly calming rhythm. As you ascend, you notice narrow openings in the outer walls. Through them, slender beams of moonlight enter the tower. After several yards, you reach an upper gallery. From here, nearly the entire library comes into view. The shelves resemble orderly streets. The reading tables look like tiny silent squares. Candles scattered throughout the room create warm golden points within the darkness. Seen from above, the library feels even larger. Perhaps hundreds of books. Perhaps thousands. A collection built slowly across many generations. You rest your hands upon an aged wooden railing. The surface has been polished smooth by countless hands over the centuries. Yet it remains strong and steady, much like the library itself, patient, silent, and perfectly still beneath the moonlight. From the upper gallery, you notice an almost imperceptible change in the light. Night is still present, yet somewhere beyond the castle walls, the first hints of dawn are slowly approaching. The candles have burned lower now. Some have been glowing for hours. Small circles of wax collect beneath wrought iron holders. The air remains perfectly still. The silence remains complete. Once more, you gaze across the rows of books. Each volume represents preserved knowledge. Many medieval texts were carefully protected within libraries like this one for generations. Some contained religious commentary. Others recorded laws, astronomical observations, theological studies, or everyday accounts of life. The library seems to breathe at its own pace. There is no urgency here, no expectation, only the quiet presence of stone, wood, parchment, and gentle light. You feel as though you could remain here for hours, observing the details, following the slow arrival of morning, listening only to the occasional crackle of a distant candle. And as the moon begins its silent descent beyond the Gothic windows, you remain there, surrounded by centuries of history, sheltered by the simple comfort of a sleeping medieval library. You leave the upper gallery behind and continue exploring the library in silence. In a quieter section, you discover several smaller tables arranged near the walls. Unlike the large reading tables, these appear to have been used for daily work. Resting upon them are ink pots, carefully trimmed quills, and small wooden containers once used for mixing pigments. You move closer to one of the desks. The surface bears subtle signs of use. Tiny scratches, darkened spots left by ink, nearly invisible grooves created through decades of patient writing. Every detail seems perfectly in place. Beside a low-burning candle, you notice a collection of goose-feather quills. Some are nearly a foot long. During the Middle Ages, preparing a quill for writing required skill and care. The tip needed to be cut with precision. The central channel had to allow ink to flow correctly. a simple tool, yet essential to the creation of written knowledge. Nearby stand small jars containing mineral pigments, deep blue, soft red, gentle shades of gold, colors used to decorate initials and illuminate important manuscripts. You imagine scribes arriving before sunrise, sitting in these very chairs, arranging their tools, preparing fresh ink, beginning another quiet day of copying and writing. A slow, repetitive task, almost meditative. The kind of routine capable of turning entire hours into something as gentle as drifting clouds. Passing through a small arched doorway, you enter an even quieter room. This space appears dedicated to storage. Large wooden chests rest along the walls. Some remain closed. Others stand slightly open, revealing neatly arranged bundles of rolled parchment. The room carries a different scent, stronger somehow. The fragrance of leather, aged wood, and parchment seems concentrated here. The air remains dry, an important condition for preserving documents over long periods of time. You notice bundles of parchment tied with simple cords. Some are narrow. Others are wide enough to contain maps, administrative records, or religious documents. Small handwritten labels help identify the contents without opening each roll. Only a single candle illuminates the room. Its light drifts gently across the chests and shelves. No current of air disturbs the flame. Everything appears perfectly still. As you study this careful system of organization, you notice something comforting. For centuries, countless people devoted their lives not only to creating knowledge, but also to preserving it, storing documents, cataloging records, organizing information. Quiet tasks, humble tasks, tasks rarely mentioned in grand historical accounts. And yet, thanks to these daily routines, thousands of pages survived the passing generations and reached far distant times. You return to the main corridors and discover a wide window overlooking the castle courtyard. Moving closer, you rest your hands upon the cool stone sill. Outside, everything remains asleep. The courtyard is nearly rectangular in shape. High walls surround the entire area. In one corner stands a small garden bordered by narrow pathways. Even beneath the fading moonlight, carefully maintained shrubs can still be seen. A thin layer of mist rests across the stone ground. It blankets portions of the courtyard in a quiet veil. No horses move. No servants cross the space. No doors open. You study the architectural details surrounding the yard. Square towers, sloping rooftops, stone chimneys, narrow windows designed to withstand the weather and preserve warmth during colder months. Everything feels remarkably solid, built to last for decades, perhaps centuries. From this vantage point, the castle conveys a sense of stability that is difficult to describe. Stone upon stone, timber upon timber, every piece resting exactly where it was intended to be. You remain there for several minutes, simply observing the stillness of the medieval dawn, an entire world resting beneath gentle moonlight, with no hurry at all to awaken. Leaving the window behind, you choose a corridor that seems to stretch much farther than expected. Shelves line both sides of the passage. Some remain completely filled. Others contain small empty spaces between volumes. You walk slowly. The steady rhythm of your footsteps becomes almost hypnotic. Every few yards, a candle rests upon an iron wall bracket. Together they create repeating circles of light along the corridor. light, shadow, light, shadow. A simple and comforting pattern for the eyes. You begin to notice how differently medieval libraries related to books. Today, thousands of texts can be stored on tiny devices. Here, every volume occupies physical space. It has weight. It has texture. It has presence. Some books are small enough to carry easily. Others are so large they likely require a permanent reading table. Over the centuries, many generations passed through this very corridor. Monks, scribes, librarians, scholars, occasional visitors, all moving slowly between these same stone walls. And now, for a few peaceful moments, you too become part of that long and silent sequence of footsteps that has traveled through the library. At the end of the corridor, you discover a small resting room. The space is simple. A few wooden chairs, a sturdy table, smaller bookshelves arranged along the walls, and at the center, a large stone fireplace. The fire is no longer burning, yet tiny embers still glow among the ashes. A gentle glow, red-orange, almost imperceptible. You sit down in one of the chairs. It creaks softly beneath your weight, then returns to silence. The fireplace likely provided warmth throughout the night. The stone walls still retain some of that stored heat. The room feels comfortable, neither warm nor cold. You study the details of the construction. Carefully fitted stone blocks, a strong arch overhead, side niches designed for storing firewood. Everything appears practical, durable, built to serve for a very long time. Slowly, the feeling of calm grows even deeper. The library already seemed quiet. Yet here, beside the final embers of the night, time itself appears to slow further. You remain seated for several minutes, simply watching the gentle glow of the hearth, the lingering warmth of stone, the simple comfort of wood surrounding you. And while the early morning continues its slow approach beyond the castle walls, you rest quietly, surrounded by the welcoming calm of a medieval world that has not yet awakened. After spending some time near the fireplace, you return to the library corridors. The building remains silent, yet something has changed almost imperceptibly. Moonlight no longer fully dominates the room. In some of the higher windows, a faint gray tone begins to appear along the distant horizon. Dawn is still quite far away. Even so, the night has begun its gradual transition. Once again, you pass long rows of books. Now you notice details that were hidden in the darkness before. Tiny marks upon the bindings, the texture of aged leather, hand-sewn stitching that has remained intact for centuries. In many medieval libraries, books were arranged according to specific subjects: theology, philosophy, medicine, astronomy, law. Each discipline occupied designated sections, allowing scholars to locate texts more easily. You imagine how many people spent years consulting these shelves. How many mornings began exactly like this, in silence, with a candle burning nearby, a manuscript open upon a table, and long hours of reading ahead. The building itself seems to preserve the memory of those routines, as though every stone had absorbed centuries of quiet study. As you walk, you feel no need to reach any destination. The simple act of moving through the corridors feels sufficient, like taking a slow journey through time itself. At a table near the window, you discover another open manuscript. This time, the illustrations immediately capture your attention. Circles, lines, small symbols carefully arranged across the page. They appear to be maps of the sky. During the Middle Ages, the study of the heavens played an important role in many centers of learning. Observations of the moon, visible stars, and planetary movements were recorded with remarkable patience. Their conclusions were not always accurate by modern standards. Yet careful observation of the night sky remained an important intellectual pursuit. You study the diagrams quietly. Some circles were drawn with surprising precision. Others contained small notes written in the margins. Tiny letters, ink softened by centuries of age. Outside the nearby window, a few stars still remain visible. Although dawn advances slowly, the night has not completely disappeared. Your eyes move between the manuscript and the sky, book and heavens, parchment and stars, recorded knowledge and observed knowledge. For a few peaceful moments, both seem part of the same landscape, as though the library and the night sky were connected by a long, silent conversation stretching across generations. You return to the library's great central hall. Now its dimensions are easier to appreciate. The room feels impressive without being overwhelming. Everything was built with a clear purpose in mind. Long tables occupy the center of the hall. Some stretch more than 20 feet in length. Simple benches line both sides. No piece of furniture appears excessively decorated. Practicality remains the dominant theme. You walk among the tables, noticing small details. Signs of use. Corners softened by time. Surfaces polished by countless hands. In many medieval monasteries and castles, reading spaces followed similar principles. Good natural lighting during the day. Durable furnishings. Rooms organized to encourage concentration and study. The first hints of dawn begin entering through several windows. It is not yet golden sunlight, only a gentle bluish brightness slowly replacing the darkness of night. The effect feels almost magical in its simplicity. Shadows gradually shrink. Shapes become clearer. Bookshelves slowly emerge from the dimness. For a few moments, you stand quietly in the center of the hall, breathing calmly, watching the library awaken with the same slow and peaceful rhythm that awakened you earlier. You decide to climb once again to one of the upper galleries. This time, the view appears different. The changing light has transformed the entire atmosphere. During the night, the library felt like a world of shadows and candles. Now it gradually reveals its full shape. The wooden balconies stand out against the pale stone walls. Corridors become easier to see. Architectural details emerge slowly throughout the room. You stroll along the gallery, observing the tall windows. They were designed to allow daylight to enter for much of the day. In an age when candles and lamp oil were valuable resources, maximizing natural light was both practical and wise. The brightness continues to grow. Not quickly, not dramatically, simply and steadily. The library seems to respond to this change with complete serenity. No sudden transformation, no unexpected sound. Only a gradual transition between night and morning. You rest your arms upon the railing and gaze down at the shelves below. The entire collection appears peacefully at rest, waiting for another ordinary day. Another day of reading, another day of study, another quiet day among books and parchment. At last, the first golden tones begin appearing beyond the windows facing east. Sunrise has not fully arrived, yet its approach can already be felt. The change is delicate. First, a faint glow. Then, golden reflections upon the stone. Next, small patches of light appearing across tables and shelves. You watch the transformation calmly. Throughout the night, the library belonged to moonlight, candlelight, and gentle shadows. Now it slowly passes into the care of the morning. The open pages of manuscripts reflect the new light. Details within the illustrations become easier to see. Colors appear slightly more vivid. Nothing changes suddenly. Everything happens gradually. Perhaps that is exactly what makes the moment so pleasant. The library does not awaken abruptly. It simply continues existing, while the light changes around it. You remain beside the window, watching the horizon brighten little by little. The castle is still quiet. The corridors remain empty. The books remain perfectly still. And as the first rays of morning touch the ancient stone walls, you feel as though you have witnessed something both rare and wonderfully simple. An entire night passing peacefully inside a medieval library. Morning light continues its slow journey through the library. What seemed distant and mysterious during the night now feels more familiar. The corridors remain quiet, yet details become clearer with every passing minute. You wander once more among the main bookshelves. The oak wood reveals delicate grain patterns that had been hidden in shadow. Small natural knots appear here and there. Certain sections shine softly after centuries of careful use. The books look different beneath the morning light as well. Some possess nearly black bindings. Others display shades of brown, red, and gold. There are small volumes that could easily fit into a travel bag. There are also enormous manuscripts capable of covering an entire table. You imagine how many hands have touched those bindings over the centuries. How many pages have been turned. How many notes have been copied. How many hours of study have filled this room. Yet despite being surrounded by so many objects, the library never feels crowded. Instead, there is a sense of quiet order. Every book has its place. Every shelf serves a purpose. Every corridor naturally leads to the next. You continue walking slowly, watching golden sunlight spread across the stone floor. Like a silent clock, the sun begins drawing new patterns throughout the library. Near the center of the library, you discover a section dedicated to organizing manuscripts. Small labels, lists, and records occupy modest shelves arranged along a wall. At first glance, they seem like ordinary administrative documents. But as you look more closely, something interesting becomes apparent. Every library depends upon quiet systems of organization. Without them, locating a single text could require hours or even days. Those responsible for these collections needed to record locations, contents, and categories. Patient work, methodical work, often repetitive work. You examine several carefully written lists. Neat lines, simple columns, titles, references, brief notes. Nothing especially impressive at first glance. Yet these records made knowledge accessible. As you study the organized pages, you realize that much of history was shaped by people rarely mentioned in history books. Archivists, copyists, librarians, administrators, people whose primary task was simply keeping everything functioning smoothly. You find yourself appreciating that simplicity, not because it is grand, but because it is steady, because quiet dedication transformed a collection of manuscripts into a truly useful library. After exploring several rooms, you discover a small wooden bench positioned beside a wall touched by morning sunlight. The spot seems perfect for a brief rest. You sit down. The wood feels slightly warm from the light entering through a nearby window. For a few moments, you do absolutely nothing. You do not study manuscripts. You do not wander corridors. You do not examine architectural details. You simply sit. During the Middle Ages, quiet moments like this were likely not uncommon. Life contained many duties and responsibilities, yet it also moved according to rhythms very different from those of today. Less speed, fewer interruptions, fewer constant distractions. The sunlight continues moving slowly across the wall. Inch by inch, almost imperceptibly, you watch the subtle change. Perhaps 10 minutes pass, perhaps 20. It is difficult to tell. Inside the library, time seems to behave differently. No modern clocks, no notifications, no urgency, only the peaceful succession of moments. The same succession that accompanied countless similar mornings throughout the centuries. When you stand once again, you notice another window that you had not examined closely before. Moving toward it, you discover a different view from those you have already seen. Beyond the inner walls lies a garden. Small, orderly, carefully maintained. Rectangular planting beds stretch in neat rows. Some plants appear to be herbs used for food or simple remedies. Others seem purely decorative. Morning sunlight gently illuminates leaves covered with tiny drops of dew. Everything remains quiet. Even the birds seem unusually restrained during this early hour. You imagine the castle's residents walking through the garden later in the day, perhaps gathering herbs, perhaps resting, perhaps simply enjoying a few moments outdoors. The garden perfectly complements the atmosphere of the library, knowledge preserved within the walls, nature arranged beyond the windows, both creating the same feeling of balance. You remain there watching the scene for a while, not thinking about schedules, not thinking about obligations, simply following the peaceful rhythm of a medieval morning unfolding slowly before your eyes. Morning has now fully arrived. The library is illuminated by a harmonious blend of daylight and a few remaining candles. You return to the great hall one final time. Everything appears different from the moment when you first awakened upon the oak table. The shadows have faded. The colors have emerged. The details have become visible. And yet the essence of the place remains exactly the same. Silence, calm, stability. You gaze across the long rows of books stretching throughout the hall. Hundreds of volumes, perhaps thousands, each containing fragments of knowledge accumulated across generations. The library does not seem impressed by its own importance. It simply exists, day after day, year after year, century after century. Perhaps that is one reason the place feels so serene. Nothing here seeks attention. Nothing demands urgency. Nothing competes for space. You walk slowly through the center of the hall as sunlight streams through the Gothic windows. Golden patterns spread across the stone floor. And for the first time since awakening, you feel as though you truly know this place. As though you have spent far more than a single night among its quiet shelves. You continue walking through the great hall as the morning slowly advances. Golden sunlight now reaches much of the library. Areas that remained hidden throughout the night can finally be seen clearly. The corridors seem wider. The shelves seem taller. The books seem even more numerous. You pass reading tables now touched by soft bands of sunlight. The light reveals tiny particles of dust drifting through the air. They move so slowly that they almost appear motionless. In many ways, the library remains exactly the same. No object has changed position. No book has been removed. No chair has been moved. And perhaps that stability is precisely what makes the place so comforting. The outside world changes constantly. Seasons pass. People come and go. Years move forward. But inside these walls, the feeling is different. The stone walls remain steady. The shelves continue supporting their books. The light continues entering through the same windows. You slow your pace even further, as though trying to match the natural rhythm of the place. A quiet rhythm, a steady rhythm, a peaceful rhythm, one that seems to have existed long before your arrival, and will continue long after you leave. At the end of a corridor, you discover a window facing beyond the castle walls. For the first time, you can see the distant landscape surrounding the fortress. Gentle hills stretch toward the horizon. Small fields divide the countryside into simple geometric patterns. The morning mist slowly begins to disappear beneath the growing warmth of the day. The scene carries the same tranquility found inside the library. There is no hurried movement, no major event unfolding. Only the beginning of another ordinary day. You rest your arms upon the cool stone sill and quietly observe. Distance seems to make everything softer, quieter, slower. For centuries, countless mornings like this have appeared above these same hills. The sun rose. The mist faded. The day continued on its natural course. And the library remained. Protecting books, preserving manuscripts, safeguarding stories, while the world around it slowly moved through the generations. You watch the landscape for several minutes, then take a deep, calm breath, as though hoping to keep the peaceful image with you. You leave the window behind and return once again to the shelves. Now there is no darkness remaining. The library is fully awake, and yet the silence remains. You slowly walk through one of the longest aisles. Books accompany you on both sides, row after row, shelf after shelf. There is something deeply comforting about that repetition. Organized books, aligned corridors, carefully placed tables, a simple order, an understandable order. As you walk, you notice that you no longer feel curious about discovering the next room or the next shelf. The feeling has changed. You are no longer exploring. You are simply appreciating. The library has become familiar. Every corridor feels known. Every window feels welcoming. Every table feels inviting. You slow down even more. The sound of your footsteps becomes gentle, steady, almost like breathing. For a few moments, everything feels perfectly balanced. The light, the stone, the wood, the books, and the comforting silence that ties all of those elements together into one peaceful landscape. Near a sunlit window, you discover a simple wooden chair positioned beside a small table. An open manuscript rests upon it. You sit down. Morning light gently warms the space around you. The parchment remains open to the same page. The letters remain still. The illustrations remain silent. Nothing demands your attention. Nothing needs to be understood. Nothing needs to be solved. You simply observe. The experience seems to summarize everything that happened throughout the night. The shelves, the candles, the corridors, the staircases, the manuscripts, the windows. Every detail contributed to a single continuous feeling of calm. The castle remains quiet. The library remains orderly. The morning continues advancing, and you remain seated for a few minutes, perhaps longer, without counting time, without watching clocks, simply allowing the tranquility of the place to exist around you, like a slow and steady current, like sunlight passing through an ancient window, like pages resting silently upon a shelf for hundreds of years. And so, morning finally fills the entire library. The moon has disappeared. The candles have completed their quiet work. Sunlight now fully illuminates the shelves, the corridors, and the ancient stone walls. You remain there, observing the place one final time. There is no hurry to leave, only a peaceful sense of completion. Throughout a single night, you walked silent corridors, observed ancient manuscripts, climbed stone staircases, followed the slow passage of hours, watched the arrival of dawn, and witnessed the gentle awakening of a medieval library. Nothing extraordinary happened. No great event. No surprising discovery. Only something far rarer. The opportunity to remain in a place where time seems to slow down, where knowledge rests quietly, where every book patiently waits for its next reader. You breathe calmly. Morning light continues entering through the windows. The shadows continue fading, and the library remains exactly as it has always been. Patient, silent, welcoming. Perhaps it will remain this way for many centuries more. Perhaps it will continue watching seasons and generations pass, protecting its stories, safeguarding its books, waiting peacefully. And as the morning grows brighter and brighter, you allow your thoughts to slow. You allow the silence to remain. You allow the calm to settle. And little by little, like someone resting among ancient pages and gentle sunlight, you simply close your eyes,